Have you ever wondered why it seems some people may secretly dislike you? Maybe they don't say it outright, but something about their behavior, the way they avoid you, their lack of enthusiasm, or the subtle shift in their tone, that makes you wonder. You're not alone. Imagine this. You're sitting alone, surrounded by people who seem to be in their own world, laughing, connecting, moving forward. Yet here you are, wondering if something feels off. You replay recent interactions in your mind, a friend's lukewarm response, a colleague's distant demeanor, a subtle tension you can't quite place. Maybe you tell yourself it's nothing, but that nagging thought won't let go. What if they don't like me? Worse, what if they secretly dislike me and I don't even know why? It's a question that haunts us all at some point. Humans are wired for connection, but the fear of rejection can create cracks in even the strongest of relationships, and often we're left wondering, is it them? Is it me? Or is it something deeper, something hidden beneath the surface of daily interactions? Today, we're going to explore the 7 main reasons why people may secretly dislike you, how to recognize these signs, and most importantly, what you can do about it. It's not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about understanding, self-reflection, and growth. Because sometimes the answers we're looking for aren't in the actions of others, but in the subtle ways we navigate the world ourselves. Let's begin. 1. People are complex. First, let's acknowledge this. Not everyone will like you. People are incredibly complex. Their reactions, feelings, and judgments aren't always about you. Everyone carries their own baggage, insecurities, past experiences, and biases that influence how they perceive others. Sometimes, someone might secretly dislike you because you remind them of someone they've had a bad experience with. Or maybe your personality clashes with theirs in ways you can't control. Remember, how people feel about you often has more to do with their internal world than your actions. There was a young woman who loved sharing her life on social media. One day, she posted a picture of a new outfit she was excited about. Most of her friends enjoyed it, but one person left a negative comment. Some people really think they're special just because they have new clothes. The woman felt hurt, unsure why the comment was so negative. She called a close friend who explained that person might be struggling with something you don't know about. Your post could have reminded them of their own insecurities. The woman realized the comment wasn't about her at all. It was about the other person's struggles. She understood that while she couldn't control how others felt, she could be mindful of how she shared herself. The reality of social dynamics is that people have unique preferences, personalities, and past experiences that shape how they perceive others. Sometimes it has little to do with you and everything to do with them. However, it's worth reflecting on your own actions and behaviors because relationships are two-way streets. While you can't control how others feel, you can influence how you come across. Reason 2. Jealousy and envy. Have you ever felt like someone doesn't like you, even when you've done nothing wrong? You might be surprised to learn that jealousy could be the reason. Let's break it down and understand what's really going on. First, let's clarify what we mean by jealousy and envy. Jealousy usually involves a fear of losing something valuable, like attention, recognition, or relationships. Envy, on the other hand, is when someone covets what another person has, whether it's success, talent, looks, or even happiness. Both emotions can be powerful, and sometimes they manifest as dislike. Success and confidence can be intimidating to some people. It's not your fault, but your achievements or self-assured demeanor might trigger envy or feelings of inadequacy in others. When someone feels overshadowed, they might respond with subtle hostility or passive aggressiveness. This isn't a reflection of your worth, but rather their struggle with their own insecurities. You can't control how others react to your success, but you can choose how you respond. Stay humble, celebrate others' wins, and never let their envy dim your light. So, Why might people dislike you out of jealousy or envy? Here are a few common reasons. Your success. When you achieve something, whether it's a promotion, a new car, or a personal milestone, it can unintentionally make others feel inadequate by comparison. Your confidence. Confidence can be inspiring, but to someone struggling with self-esteem, it might come across as intimidating or even arrogant, even when you're just being yourself. Your happiness. Believe it or not, people might envy your ability to stay positive, especially if they're going through tough times themselves. Your unique traits. Maybe it's your creativity, your style, or how you light up a room. The things that make you you can sometimes highlight what others feel they're missing. But here's the important part. It's not really about you. Jealousy and envy are reflections of what's happening within them, not a true assessment of your worth. That's why someone might dislike you even though you haven't done anything wrong. So, what can you do? Here are some tips for dealing with jealousy and envy in a Stoic way. Stay kind and grounded. Responding to negativity with kindness can disarm tension. Plus, it shows you're not stooping to their level. Set boundaries. If someone's jealousy turns toxic, it's okay to distance yourself. Protect your peace. Don't dim your light. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Keep shining. It's not your responsibility to manage how others feel about your success. Show empathy. A little compassion goes a long way. Try to understand where they're coming from, but don't let it become your burden. At the end of the day, jealousy and envy are natural human emotions. We've all felt them at some point, but it's how we handle those feelings that really matters. And remember, if someone dislikes you for being yourself, that's their issue, not yours. Reason 3. Miscommunication and misinterpretation. Confidence can be misinterpreted. Sometimes, people dislike us because of misunderstandings. Maybe you came across as rude when you were just being direct. Perhaps you unintentionally ignored someone when you were preoccupied with your own thoughts. We all have blind spots in how we communicate. You might think your actions are harmless, but others could interpret them differently. For instance, sarcasm might feel playful to you, but offensive to others. We've all been there. You're living your life, doing your best, and suddenly someone seems to hold a grudge, make an offhand comment, or even avoid you altogether. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Here's the truth. Sometimes the answer isn't about what you've done, but how others perceive what you've done. Let's break it down. The assumptions. We make humans our natural storytellers. When we don't have all the information, we fill in the gaps with assumptions. Maybe you were quiet in a meeting and someone assumes you're being dismissive. Or perhaps you were joking with a friend and someone overheard and thought you were being rude. It's important to remember that everyone interprets situations through the lens of their own experiences and insecurities. A harmless comment from you might feel like a personal attack to someone who's had a bad day or is sensitive about a certain topic. Most of these assumptions are subconscious. The other person might not even realize they're misjudging you. Non-verbal communication. Another big culprit behind misunderstandings is non-verbal communication. Did you know that over 70% of communication is non-verbal? That means your body language, tone of voice, or even your resting expression can convey messages you didn't intend. For example, crossing your arms might just mean you're cold, but someone else might read it as you being defensive or closed off. A neutral face might seem disinterested to someone expecting enthusiasm. These small cues can add up, especially if they reinforce a narrative someone already believes about you. The impact of gossip. Let's talk about the role of gossip in shaping misunderstandings. One person's misinterpretation can spread like wildfire. Suddenly, someone who barely knows you has a negative impression based on second-hand information. It's frustrating but it's also human nature. People love sharing stories, good or bad, and sometimes those stories stray far from the truth. Misinterpretations and misunderstandings are an inevitable part of human relationships. The good news is, they're also opportunities for growth. Each misunderstanding gives you a chance to practice empathy, self-awareness, and communication. So, how do you combat this? Unfortunately, you can't control how others interpret your actions, but you can influence the narrative. Be mindful of your actions. This doesn't mean walking on eggshells, but being aware of how your words and behaviors might come across to others can help reduce misunderstandings. Clarify when needed. If you sense a misunderstanding, don't be afraid to address it. A simple, "Hey, I think there might have been a mix-up. Let me explain what I meant," can go a long way. Build genuine connections. The more people know the real you, the less likely they are to believe a false narrative. Authenticity is your best defense against misinterpretation. Accept that not everyone will like you. And that's okay. Even if you do everything right, some people will still misinterpret your actions, and you can't please everyone. The key is not letting their opinions define your self-worth. These small moments can snowball into resentment if left unaddressed. Communication is key. When in doubt, clarify your intentions and be open to feedback. Reason 4. The power of gossip and rumors. Gossip and rumors are like wildfire. Gossip is typically casual conversation about someone, and not all of it is negative. But when it is, it can be incredibly damaging. Rumors, on the other hand, are unverified pieces of information that spread quickly and take on a life of their own. Once these stories are out there, it can feel almost impossible to control how people perceive you. So why do people gossip? There are a few reasons. For some, it's entertainment. Others use it as a way to bond with their social circle, even if it's at someone else's expense. And sometimes, it's about power. By spreading rumors, people feel like they're controlling a narrative, or worse, your reputation. But let's not forget insecurity. Many times, people gossip because it distracts from their own flaws or shortcomings. They shift the spotlight away from themselves by putting someone else in a negative one. Unfortunately, you can become their target without even realizing it. Now, why do others believe these stories? One word: bias. People are naturally inclined to accept information that aligns with what they already suspect or feel. If someone has a minor issue with you, maybe jealousy, misunderstanding, or simply a personality clash, a negative rumor can confirm their bias, even if it's untrue. There's also something called the illusion of truth effect. The more we hear something, even if it's false, the more likely we are to believe it. So if a rumor about you gets repeated enough, it can seem true to others. Hearing that someone dislikes you because of gossip can hurt deeply. You might feel misunderstood, isolated, or even question yourself. But here's the thing: what others think about you doesn't define who you are. Gossip and rumors say more about the person spreading them than they do about you. So, how do we handle this? First, remember to stay grounded. Focus on the people who truly know you and value your character. These are the voices that matter. If you're comfortable, address the rumor head-on. Sometimes, a calm conversation can clear up misunderstandings, but if the gossip persists, know when to walk away. Not every rumor is worth your energy. Protect your peace. Finally, keep your integrity intact. Gossip thrives on drama. If you remain consistent and true to yourself, over time, people will see through the false narratives. At the end of the day, we can't control what others say about us, but we can control how we respond. Gossip and rumors might sting, but they don't have to break you. So, keep being you, and don't let someone else's words define your story. Reason 5. Competition and rivalry. Humans are wired to compete, even when we don't realize it. It could be for attention, recognition, or resources. When people feel like they're in a race, whether for a promotion, admiration, or even just validation, you might unintentionally become their rival. Think about it. When you excel at something, it's inspiring to some, but threatening to others. If you're great at your work, someone else might feel like they're falling short in comparison. If you're confident, they might see that as a reflection of their own insecurities. Here's a classic example. Imagine a workplace where promotions are limited. You're putting in the hours, hitting your targets, and getting noticed. While great for you, someone else might feel like your success is a direct obstacle to theirs. They might start seeing you less as a colleague and more as a competitor, even if you've never viewed it that way. Rivalry isn't just for professional settings. It can happen in social circles too. Let's talk about some things that can happen in friendships. You're the one who's adventurous, gets along with everyone, or achieves personal milestones faster. Without meaning to, your strengths might highlight someone else's self-perceived weaknesses, and that can create tension. Does this mean you should dim your light to make others feel more comfortable? Absolutely not. You shouldn't have to hold back your growth or success to avoid making others uncomfortable. But understanding why this happens can help you navigate these situations with grace and empathy. So, what can you do? First, recognize when someone's behavior might stem from rivalry rather than personal dislike. It's not always about you. It's often about their own struggles. If you value the relationship, have an open conversation. You'd be surprised how far a little understanding can go. Second, stay focused on your own path. It's easy to get pulled into unnecessary competition, but remember, the goal is your growth, not someone else's approval. And finally, surround yourself with people who celebrate your wins, not just tolerate them. Remember, life is too short to stray away from your goals and ambitions for the sake of someone else's insecurities. At the end of the day, competition and rivalry are part of life. They can create friction, sure, but they can also push us to be better. The key is recognizing them for what they are and not letting them dictate your self-worth or relationships. So, when you sense someone wants to make a rival or competitor out of you, don't take it too personally. Keep growing, keep winning, and let your success speak for itself. Reason 6, lack of authenticity. Allow me to explain what I mean by the lack of authenticity. Being authentic doesn't mean baring your soul to everyone or being brutally honest all the time. It's about showing up as your real self, your values, your quirks, and your boundaries, all without wearing a mask to fit in or please others. When people sense you're not being genuine, they might not be able to put their finger on why, but they feel it. Think about when we meet someone who seems fake or overly polished. It has a tendency to make us feel uneasy. It's human nature. There are a few common reasons people might see you as inauthentic, even if you don't intend to be. Trying too hard to please everyone. Are you constantly agreeing with others, even when you don't actually agree? Or maybe you always say what you think people want to hear. While it might seem harmless, or even like the polite thing to do, it can come across as insincere. People have an appreciation for honesty and individuality. When they sense you're bending over backward to fit in, it can make them question whether they're seeing the real you. Over-polished persona. Whether it's on social media or in real life, a picture-perfect persona can alienate people. When you present a version of yourself that's overly curated, it's hard for others to connect. Remember, flaws and imperfections are what make us relatable. Lack of emotional openness. If you struggle to share how you really feel or open up about your vulnerabilities, people might see you as guarded or distant. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's a bridge that connects us to others. Without it, relationships can feel superficial. Inconsistent behavior. If your words don't match your actions, or if you're one way with one group of people and different with another, it sends a confusing message. Consistency builds trust, and without trust, relationships falter. The thing is, most people dislike inauthenticity because it creates a sense of mistrust. Whether they realize it or not, people value relationships where they feel safe, understood, and respected. When someone seems fake, it's hard to build that connection. Another thing is this: people often view inauthenticity as manipulative, even if that's not your intention. Some may wonder, what's the real agenda? And once someone questions your motives, it's difficult to recover from. The good news is that authenticity is something we can work on. Here are a few steps to get you started. Stop trying to be perfect. Embrace your flaws and quirks. You don't have to be everything to everyone. In fact, the more human you are, the more people will relate to you. Speak your truth, kindly. This doesn't mean being harsh or blunt, but it does mean being honest. If you don't agree with something or feel strongly about an issue, share your perspective with kindness and respect. Be consistent. Strive to align your words and actions, and if you mess up, own it. Authenticity isn't about perfection, it's about honesty and accountability. Practice vulnerability. Share your thoughts and feelings, even when it's uncomfortable. You don't have to open up to everyone about everything, but letting people see the real you builds deeper connections. Know your values. Take some time to figure out what really matters to you. When you're clear on your values, it's easier to show up as yourself because you're not constantly shifting to match others' expectations. The takeaway is this: people value authenticity because it creates trust and connection. When you're not showing up as your true self, it's like putting up a wall that keeps others at a distance. And while they might not dislike you as a person, they're likely reacting to the mask you're wearing. This doesn't mean we have to reveal every part of ourselves to everyone, but being true to your values and true to your personality builds trust. People have a deep respect for authenticity, even if we all aren't always in agreement. Remember, the Stoics teach us to only focus on what we can control. So, ask yourself, am I showing up as my real self? If the answer is no, identify it and begin to work on it immediately. This isn't about being overly critical with ourselves. It's about becoming more aligned with who you truly are. If you are showing up as the real you, then you've done what you can control and let go of the rest. Reason 7, the personal boundaries we set. Now, before we get into it, let's get one thing straight. Setting boundaries is healthy. It's not just okay to have boundaries. It's necessary for your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. But understand this, not everyone is going to like it. So, let's break this down. Boundaries are the limits and guidelines we set to protect our time, energy, and emotional health. They define what's okay and what's not okay for us. For example, it could be saying no to an event when you're feeling overwhelmed, refusing to answer work emails after hours, or telling someone you're uncomfortable with a certain topic of conversation. The thing about boundaries is that they often challenge the status quo. When you set a boundary, you're essentially saying, "This is how I need to be treated." And for some people, that can feel threatening. Why? Because your boundaries might clash with their expectations or desires. Let's unpack why this happens. Some people might see your boundaries as a rejection. For example, let's say you're someone who's always been the yes person in your group. You're the one who always agrees to help out, even when you're stretched thin. The moment you start saying no, some people might take it personally. They're not used to this new version of you. And instead of seeing it as self-care, they interpret it as you pulling away from them. Your boundaries might highlight their lack of boundaries. When you're clear about what's okay for you and what isn't, it can make someone who struggles with boundaries feel uncomfortable. It's almost like holding up a mirror to their own behavior. They might not even realize it, but your boundaries could be triggering some insecurities or unresolved issues within themselves. Let's face it, some people are just used to having access to you whenever they want. This might sound harsh, but it's true. When you've made yourself consistently available or have always prioritized their needs over yours, they might feel entitled to your time and energy. Setting boundaries disrupts that dynamic, and instead of reflecting on their behavior, they might label you as selfish, distant, or even rude. Here's another thing to consider. People might dislike your boundaries because they're testing them. Some people will push back just to see if you're serious. For example, you might tell someone, "Hey, I need to log off at 5 p.m. today," and they'll still send you a message at 5:05 asking for a quick favor. If you reinforce your boundary and stick to it, they might get annoyed because they're not getting what they want. But here's the truth. Their reaction says more about them than it does about you. So, what can you do when someone dislikes you because of your boundaries? First, remind yourself that you're not responsible for other people's feelings. This doesn't mean you're being heartless. It means you're respecting your own needs. Second, communicate your boundaries clearly and calmly. Sometimes people react poorly because they don't understand where you're coming from. A simple explanation like, "I'm doing this to take care of myself," can go a long way. And third, accept that not everyone will like your boundaries. Your well-being is more important than someone's temporary discomfort. Ultimately, setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. Yes, it might make some people uncomfortable. It might even cause some friction in your relationships, but it's also what allows you to show up as your best, most authentic self. And here's the thing. The right people will respect your boundaries. They'll understand that taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. So, if you're feeling guilty about setting boundaries, or if you're worried about how people might react, remember this. You deserve to protect your peace. You deserve to have relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and understanding. And most importantly, you deserve to prioritize your own well-being. Self-awareness and growth. While it's easy to blame others for their dislike, it's equally important to examine your own behavior. Are there patterns in your actions that might unintentionally alienate others? Are you overly critical, impatient, or self-centered at times? Growth starts with self-awareness. By identifying areas where you can improve, you can build stronger, more meaningful relationships. This doesn't mean changing who you are to please everyone. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. The hard truth is this: not everyone will like you, no matter what you do. Dislike is a part of life, just as much as friendship and love. What matters is how you handle it. Instead of fixating on why someone doesn't like you, focus on the people who do. Surround yourself with those who appreciate your authenticity, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your growth. Dislike is an inevitable part of human relationships, but it doesn't define you. Focus on what you can control: your actions, your growth, and your circle of support. Let go of the rest, and you'll find freedom in being unapologetically yourself. Now click this video to achieve anything you desire through self-discipline. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share with someone you feel needs to hear this.